Hello and good evening, and welcome back to more CBT. I brought my emotional support dog with me, and I've got a book, so let's go. Now, should tell you, I think tonight is going to be the last video of this series, because you have a look, that's what I've done and that's what's to left, and you know, that isn't going to be the whole content because there's other stuff at the back here too. I've got space for notes and other things. So without further ado, shall we finish? Chapter 11. Overcoming barriers to change. As you may have discovered by now, it is not always easy to change our way of thinking and behaving. Sorry about the it's getting comfy. Sometimes you may feel unmotivated, defeated, or incapable of techniques learned into practice. Admit, I do. You may ask yourself, well, why is this the case? What is it that makes it more difficult on some occasions than others? And you know, that's a very good question. I find sometimes you just don't feel you can, unless it's just me who thinks like that. I mean, I'm sure some of you do as well out there, or at least know someone who thinks like that. Let's carry on, shall we? Well, if we remember that it is our perception of situations, rather than the situations themselves, that create our feelings, the answer becomes obvious. It is our thoughts and beliefs that can make it harder for us to implement change. There are two common cognitive barriers to changing your mood that we are going to look at in this chapter. 1. Resisting change. Admittedly, I do this. I think I mentioned it in a previous video, probably more than once actually, that my life, as much as I know I can't live like this, there's a certain comfort in knowing it. Number 2. Questioning negative emotional experiences. Resisting change. Managing your well-being is no different from maintaining physical fitness. It's a constant work in progress. We may feel overwhelmed with the idea of change and feel a pull towards our old ways. Admittedly, I do. I can hear my old ways calling me right now, saying, Jim, stop this. Stop all this nonsense and just come back to what you know. Sorting your life out is overrated. Or so the voice in my head says anyway. The first thing you need to know is that this is completely normal. It's nice to know. Nearly everyone thinks this way at times, so what do we do about it? We treat negative thoughts about change just as we have learnt to treat other unhelpful thoughts. We challenge or distract ourselves from them. Remember that everything that goes through our mind is a thought and can be treated as such. Go back to chapter 6 and refresh if you need to. I'm not going to do that, I'm just going to carry on. Exercise 11.1. Interfering thoughts. I suppose that's another way of saying intrusive thoughts. Below is a list of common thoughts that can interfere with change and maintaining our well-being. Have you experienced any of these thoughts? Now, you might want to do is for those of you watching or listening, hopefully both, hopefully you're listening if you are watching, you might want to do this with me. And it gives you a little list. See? Well, you can't really see because it's hard. Anyway, because it's hard for me to get it thing. Anyway, let's carry on, shall we? This is too hard. Yes or no? Part of me thinks yes, but I'm doing it so far and I feel definite improvement in my life, so I'm going to make that a resounding no. What if I don't get better? Now that is a fear I have. That is one I have in my head a lot. So I'm going to click that as a yes. It's not happening quickly enough. Admittedly, I know that this is a gradual process and it can take a long time to get better, but you know what? Part of me still gets disappointed at the lack of immediate change. Make it up what you will. What if my thoughts are true? Oh, that's a good one. Or a bad one, I should say. That is the voice in my head saying that one, so yeah, it's a yes. I don't think I'll ever get there. That is a genuine fear I have. That can be a yes. I don't have time to make new habits. That ain't something I tell myself. It's not true, but I will tell myself that. chances are at least one of the thoughts rang true. In my case, more than one. But don't despair. Remember that each of these can be challenged and restructured. Refer to exercise 6.1 to remind you how. Now let's quickly go back to 6.1. Quickly as we are here. Exercise 6.1, restructuring your negative thoughts. We're not going to do the full exercise, but just let you know it's there. If you want to go back to exercise 6, I'll put a thumbnail of the video up there now so you can look it up. Right. This exercise can be used for any thought that leads to actions inconsistent with wellness behaviours or leads you to fall back on old and unhelpful habits. Questioning negative emotional experiences. As previously mentioned, many of us focus on situations to explain our feelings, rather than focusing on our thinking and behaviour. Therefore, when we feel sad, angry, stressed, etc., we want to find a catalyst, a reason that justifies these unpleasant feelings. Even more than that, we want the reason to be epic. Very true. Surely something major has to happen for us to feel this bad. Of course, as you have read through this book, you'll know that this is not always the case. It's very true. I remember, if you saw my video recent, which I made partly through my CBT thing, where I talk about having a really bad night, and I was. I forgot to charge my phone. Now, my phone takes roughly an hour to charge with the charger it came with, and my phone wasn't quite on the threshold, the below 20% threshold where it recommends I charge it, but it was on about 30, and I thought, I've got an hour left before I go to bed. I thought, why don't I just put a few videos on, just let the phone run down naturally. And they say, I forgot to charge it. I'd done a bit of charging when I got into bed, and they say I couldn't get on the Macadam app to record my steps, and it freaked me out, and I cried a little bit, and I cursed God a bit, even though I don't know if I believe him or not. I cursed him out anyway, and it was a really bad night. But the next day, this is the important thing to remember, is that I felt better, and I realised I even made a video about it. The thumbnail will be on the screen right now so you can look it up. Now back to what I was saying. Now, where were we? Okay. As you have read through this book, you'll know that this is not always the case. However, we often do find ourselves questioning and even criticizing ourselves when we can't identify a satisfactory reason for our emotions. Perhaps you can relate to one or more scenarios in an exercise 11.2. So, exercise 11.2, unexplained emotions. It's another yes-no thing, so let's go through them. Feeling a little blah and not able to work out why. See, blah may be an alternate. Nowadays I'd say feeling meh. But yes, sometimes I do. Feeling suddenly tearful and thinking, where did that come from? Yes, I do. Having a sense of dread about an upcoming pleasant event. Yes, I do. Feeling irritable and acting cross with people over little things. Oh yes, I do that. I tend to hold my emotions in though, but sometimes the contempt can be heard in my voice. Chances are that you have experienced at least one of these in your life. Heck, I've experienced them all, mate. And you may have experienced all of them, which is me. That's me. It's quite common when you're feeling a negative emotion to ruminate on the why. It's as though we feel that the emotional experience is only allowed if there's a solid reason for it to be there. This is quite an understandable reaction. However, this thought process usually leads to feelings of anxiety in the short term and lower self-confidence in the long term. Therefore, this thinking is unhelpful. Yeah, I can agree with that. Emotions do not obey rules. Funny they did, eh? Whereby they only come out when it's appropriate or justified. Criticising and scrutinizing ourselves for not being able to vent or control our feelings will only increase our negative emotion and lengthen the duration of our upset. If we do not use CBT techniques to manage the thoughts below, in addition to feeling worse, we'll also be more likely to drop our wellness behaviours, which of course will perpetuate the problem. So they've made a few bullet points, so let's go through them. Number 1, why do I feel this way? Number 2, this means I'm really struggling and something is wrong. Number 3, why can't I manage like everyone else? Number 4, I must be getting worse again. Very all valid thoughts which I've had. Not ideal, obviously, but thoughts I've had. Emotions change. We cannot always be happy. Being happy at times is a normal part of life. As described in Chapter 7, we don't require a massive event for our emotions to go downhill. A number of small things change in our behaviours, for example, poor sleep, poor exercise, or no time for relaxation, and /or our cognition /thoughts. For example, overanalyzing, ruminating, self-criticizing, etc. We can experience a big emotional change. Hope you're listening to this, people. Therefore, thoughts focused on why and what is wrong need to be restructured or distracted from, and wellness behaviour is resumed. This may not always lead us to instant happiness, but will certainly stop us spiralling into sadness or despair. Notice that any of these thoughts are going around in your mind. Now is the perfect time to go back to Chapter 6 and work through the exercises on challenging and restructuring unhelpful thoughts. Practicing these skills regularly will give you a better idea of how to apply them in your daily life. And that is Chapter 11 finished. We're about to go on to Chapter 12. So that's people, but I've got a selfie stick between my legs recording it, so it's kind of hard with one hand. Right, Chapter 12, Your Well-Being MOT. We encourage you to look after your psychological health in much the same way you might check your car in for an MOT at regular intervals to prevent a breakdown. See, that's the thing. I take my car in for MOT once a year because that's the law. I don't just, take my car into the mechanics because I think, just check it over, guys, see how it's doing, alright? But anyway, making a commitment to practice cognitive and behavioural techniques regularly, even when you are not feeling stress, is the best way to keep the frequency and intensity of stressful times at bay. Remember, there is no such thing as pure and constant happiness. That is perfection and therefore an unobtainable illusion. Keep this in mind when you are practicing cognitive and behavioural techniques. Human emotional experience is full of ups and downs. Wherever we might be going through, it is normal for our mood to fluctuate. It is what our emotional self does. That's just how it is. Therefore, improvements in our mood are not just linear in nature. You won't just start feeling a bit better each day. Keep this in mind when checking in with how you feel, as a lot of our distress is simply made worse by the high expectations we hold for ourselves around how we think we should be feeling. It's all too easy to feel depressed about being depressed or anxious about feeling anxious. That is something I regularly do. Shouldn't, I do. Learning to accept that you'll experience unpleasant feelings at times is the most important key to well-being. And that leads us on to exercise 12.1. Checking in with yourself. Make a commitment to spend some time each day checking in with your thoughts and behaviours, see if they are in line with your goal of well-being. Ask yourself the following questions. How helpful has my thinking been today? How helpful have my behaviours been today? How would I rate my mood today from 0 to 10? 0 being the lowest, of depression, crying yourself to sleep, and 10 is pure bliss. And lastly, what might I like to try to do differently tomorrow? It may be helpful to record responses to these questions so that you can have a broader look at how you're making use of CBT techniques. If you notice that you are constantly rating your mood between 0 and 3, you may be experiencing a depressed mood and should consult with your GP and or trained mental health professional. That is very true. Catch it early. How often do we hear people talk about the various physical ailments with optimism when the problem has been caught early? This optimism is down to the assumption that it will be easier to treat, which of course is often the case. Mental well-being is no different from physical well-being. When we recognise a problem early, the symptoms are less debilitating, the treatment is simpler, and the recovery is quicker. Generally, with psychological health, symptoms simply become larger in intensity and number when they remain untreated. The easiest way to keep on track of your mental well-being is to know what your early warning signs of distress are and to address the problem at this point, rather than waiting for things to worsen. That is good. I should really know this, but I don't. Right. Exercise. Draft point 12. Early warning signs of distress. On the next page is a list of common warning signs of distress. Everyone is different and some of these will not apply to you. Take a moment to consider each item on the list and see if they represent your experiences of distress. There are also some blank spaces for you to record any of your own early warning signs that are not listed. You may like to ask close family and friends who may notice changes in your behaviour which you had not considered. Yeah, I can see that. Reviewing your list monthly will help keep track of your psychological state. This will give you a better chance of being able to nip any problems in the bud before they escalate into larger, longer-term problems. Tick in either the yes or no box for each item. Okay, there's quite a few of these. I'll show you. So you got this, see? So let's go through them. I'm more pessimistic about my life circumstance. That's a yes. I don't enjoy things as I usually would. That too is a yes at the moment. My self-confidence has decreased. Actually, if anything, my self-confidence has increased lately. That's a no. I am more critical of myself. Yes, I cry more than usual. I don't think it's about the same really. I barely ever cry. I feel more agitated than usual. No, I lose interest in people and activities. That is very true, I do. I find it more difficult to make decisions. Oh god, yes. I almost paralyse myself with the decision. I have less energy than usual. Well, I haven't slept well the past 2 nights, so I'm going to put no anyway. My sleep pattern has changed. No. My appetite has changed. No, but my willpower towards eating sweets and other things has. If you remember, I've done my video on my own particular brand of self-harm. Just as a disclaimer, I did not claim that my self-harm was bad or worse than other people's. Just my own personal experience, of course. I'm actually doing really well with that. Sometimes I go in the shops, I see sweets and I don't buy them. I'm quite proud of myself for that. Right, and one thing, I have difficulty with my concentration. Oh god, yes, I've always had trouble with that. I lose interest in sex. It's very true. I do lose interest in sex very quickly. I'm not going to go into details today because it's not that kind of video, but let's just say it's led to me wondering if perhaps I'm asexual. I'm probably not. I'm not really, because past experience tells me that I'm just a regular, boring old heterosexual. Right, my body is on edge. Edge, leg, heart racing, tense muscles. No, not really. No more than normal. I find it more difficult to relax. Yes. I feel more scared than usual. Yes. I avoid my friends and socialising. I don't really have friends. I have a pen pal in Egypt who I talk to once a week, but that's about it. I drink more alcohol. No, I'm pretty restrained when it comes to alcohol, actually. I smoke more cigarettes. No. I've tried smoking, never really got into it. And snappy and argue more with other people. No. If 2 or more of your early warning signs are present when you reflect on your list every month, it's time to engage more fully in cognitive behavioural techniques. Now, let's go back to this, people, okay? Because I mostly answered generally. But overall, I'm a better person, but mostly, mostly I do feel better. I'm handling everything better lately, which is really good. But these are all good signs of things coming up, and half the time I will miss them. But you ever feel bad about yourself, or you think, just have a look at this and ask yourself these questions in the moment. If 2 or more of your early warning signs are present when you reflect on your list every month, it's time to engage more fully in cognitive behavioural techniques. Think about that, people. Final thoughts. We thought that now would be a good time to ask you to once again consider what's the difference between happy people and unhappy people. Is it their house, car, figure, or how much money they have in the bank? It helps, but it doesn't make a difference. I know that. It doesn't make a big difference at the end of it. I know that much. I've seen rich people on TV and I can tell you now, they're miserable. It is their perspective on the situation rather than the situation itself. Basically, it all comes back to whether the glass is half empty or half full. With this little workbook, we have brought you the most fundamental and crucial aspects and techniques of CBT to help you realise some of their benefits straight away in your everyday life. Now, this book continues to be instrumental in helping you manage your mood and staying psychologically well. Remember, the CBT techniques included in this book are not a quick fix to any problems that you might be experiencing, but instead promote a way of being going forward in your life. Practice the techniques and do the exercises regularly and incorporate them into your everyday schedule. If you do so, we are sure you'll notice the benefits of CBT. We wish you the best of luck with your journey to improving and maintaining your well-being. Here are some of our thoughts on CBT which will hopefully serve as an inspiration to you. Number 1. We cannot control or prevent the undesirable events around us or within us, but we can manage ourselves in relation to such events. In doing so, we promote our confidence and well-being. 2. Our single-minded pursuit of happiness will result in disappointment, frustration and sadness each and every time. Trying to accept the very spectrum of our emotional experience is the road to well-being. Number 3. Try to ask why of your experience less. Such questioning undermines our confidence, leading to a greater sense of inadequacy and stagnation. The cause of our distress is not to be found in the answer to the question why, but is in fact found in the unhelpful, albeit intuitive, asking of the question why itself. Number 4. Pointing your finger in blame is ultimately being self-critical, as to do so is to confirm a sense of helplessness, inadequacy and lack of confidence around your ability to change your own reality. Number 5. Perfection is an unobtainable illusion, so there's no point in striving to find it. We never will. Setting our incompleteness and fallibilities to be complete and full of well-being. Try not to make what is uncertain certain. The more you fear something, the more it will bite you in the bum. Go on, man. Didn't think the word bum would figure in this book, or appear in this book. I definitely didn't think it would be the last word either. Right, you have here further reading and resources. I'm going to read them, but I'm also going to leave a thumbnail on the screen so that if you want to read them out, you can. You have Branch, Rena and Wilson, Rob, Cognitive Behavioural Therapy for Dummies 2nd edition. Bryce, Stephen, Brilliant Cognitive Behavioural Therapy, How to Use CBT to Improve Your Mind and Your Life. Dryden, Wendy, Teach Yourself to Be Your Own CBT Therapist. Greenberger, Dennis, and Podesky, Christine, Mind Over Mood. Change how you feel by changing the way you think. Again, there will be a screenshot of this right now, but I'm going to read them. Actually, I'm not too sure why I'm reading these really, because I'm going to put a screen, but I will do it because I've started. And so I shall finish. Pal Trevor. Just realised these are authors, so I'm reading their names backwards. The Mental Health Handbook, The Cognitive Behavioural Therapy, A Cognitive Behavioural Approach, 3rd edition. Sinclair Michael. Why did I do that? No. Fear and Self-Loathing in the City, A Guide to Keeping Sane in the Square Mile. And now you have some useful websites. This too will be a screenshot. And this is the end of it. I'll quickly go through them. Well, I'm just going to read the titles of the websites, not going to give you the full address, but I'll put these websites in the description so you can look over them if you want, and there'll be a screenshot on the screen now. And the screenshots will be on, each screenshot will be on for 10 seconds, so there's plenty of time to look and pause. So you have Alcoholics Anonymous, Beating the Blues, British Association for Behavioural and Cognitive Psychotherapies, British Psychological Society, City Psychology Group, Health Professions Council, Mind. They're the ones that put me onto this CBT. I mean, I bought this book years ago, but reading their website recommended CBT and I remembered I had a book on it. Narcotics Anonymous, NHS Choices, Samaritans and Support Line. And that, people, is the end of CBT. Now, I would recommend buying the book yourself, rather than, please not use this video, okay, as a replacement for cognitive behavioural therapy, okay? If you feel you have been, however, I wanted to make this video, okay, to show my journey on this and to maybe help you get a start. As you know, there is this book, which I've just finished. There are other books as well which they recommend, which you would have seen on the screen. And there's also links to charities which may also be able to help. And I hope you have learned something. I hope you are doing better, and I hope if you do have issues like I do, then I hope I've helped inspire you to get started and solve them like I am. But that, unfortunately, people, is the end of cognitive behavioural therapy. Now, granted, not all the videos are uploaded at the moment. However, I've noticed that some of these videos are getting quite high viewing numbers for my, well, high viewing for me. I mean, cognitive behavioural therapy number 3 is currently my most popular video ever. So I do have 2 other mental health books. I might go through them too. One is, I've got 3 others. I've got Break Free from OCD, Mindfulness, and I'm Okay, You're Okay. I might break out the OCD one. See if that helps inspire, and might even help me too. We go through it all together because there's probably exercises we can do. But until next time, I'm James. You've been doing your cognitive behavioural therapy, and it's bye from me and bye from Therapy Dog. Bye.